I'm going to call the Planning Commission meeting to order for June 26, 2019. Please call to order.
Chair Riley, absent. Vice Chair Sofolkanik, absent. Commissioner Andrade.
Here.
Commissioner Quilty.
Here.
Commissioner DeBolt, absent. Commissioner Gross.
Here.
And Commissioner Lowe.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a presentation from the Orange County Planning officials.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Barry Curtis. I'm the Economic and Development Services Director for the City of Costa Mesa. Just want to take a couple minutes to introduce you to a new initiative that's recently begun in Orange County. It's an initiative that's designed for planning commissioners and really designed from the ground up by planning commissioners. The intent and really what the idea was to foster an opportunity for planning commissioners throughout the county to have some peer-to-peer opportunities, and also to allow and create a toolbox for planning commissioners to increase and improve their planning abilities and their leadership abilities. And I'll just quickly read you what the mission statement is for OC policy. The Orange County Planning Officials Leadership Initiative Collaborative, that's a lot of words. Mission is to encourage and support planning commissioners in their quest to become knowledgeable, competent, and ethical community servants committed to building a sustainable and resilient quality of life in their communities through the application of sound planning. So as I said, this is it's a new opportunity. It's backed by both the Planning Directors Association of Orange County and the Orange County chapter of the American Planning Association. There are a number of events starting to occur that are going to start to bring this out into the open. The first of which is on the flyer that I gave you this evening. It's July 18th. I encourage you, if you have the opportunity, to come to the lunch session that day, which is going to be focused towards planning commissioners. Every year, the Planning Directors Association puts on a planning officials forum in the fall, and at least for the last 10 years, we've had a planning commissioners track, so there's a number of sessions just designed for planning commissioners. We're doing that again this year, with part of the focus being to start to roll out this process. So that's really it. It's something that we wholeheartedly endorse. We think it's a great opportunity. As planners throughout the community, the county, we get together and talk and share ideas. From some of our experience, a lot of the commissions don't always get those opportunities to talk to commissioners from other cities, learn some of the issues they're facing. Most issues you're facing aren't unique to your city. They may be dealt with uniquely or somewhat uniquely in cities, but it's very interesting to see how other communities have dealt with issues, and frequently you'll find you don't need to reinvent the wheel on some of these things. So that's it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, thanks for your time.
Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, oral communication for anything that's not on the agenda tonight, if you would come forward and sign in, please. Keep your comments limited to 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Rob Stevens. I live in Carrier Row on Bunker Hill. I was here probably just before Easter to one of the meetings. I think I was actually early. I think it was a workshop you were doing. You were revamping some codes or trying to find better ways to do stuff. I came in to ask about adding another approach on my property on Bunker Hill. Tom told me I was told to come in and see Tom, and they were very helpful at the city. So after a month or so, we finally got together, and I think Tom came out, Les was there, and I think Dave Hunt was also there. The three of them actually looked at it. They went way out of their way to actually come out to the house. So it's pretty unique property. It's a little wider than most. Where I want to put the approach, there's an existing slab that I probably did back in the 80s when I did the fence and got a permit. That's where I'd like to put the approach, a single car approach. It's on the property next door. They moved the water main to my side of the street and put it on my adjacent property. So that area anyway is red. It's a red curb. So, and it's in front of the house. So I can still get between the parking, the approach, the two-car approach and the single-car approach, there's still plenty of room. There's 24 or 5 feet. I think we measured it. So that's what I'm after is, you know, be able to get a permit without getting a continuous use permit or, I don't know how it all works. I didn't know if I could get a regular permit. I know it's through Public Works. I think that's why Dave was there. Yeah, conditional. Anyway, that's what I'm here about, and just wondering if, how that works, you know. I know, I think there's been something that you maybe won't allow 2 approaches on a residence, but I don't know, this one's kind of a unique, so I was hoping to find out more about it. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, seeing that nobody else is coming to the podium, I will close the oral communications. Approval of minutes, we have a couple of different months. We have April 24th, 2019. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is for which one?
April 24th.
Was it there in March?
We still have March 14th.
There was a March, I think.
Well, that one's in the next, that's a special meeting, and then May. Yeah. We have 4, I'm looking to see if we have the quorum for it.
I'll have to abstain.
Okay, then we don't have a quorum, so we'll have to postpone that for the next month.
I was absent at April.
Okay. Now to May 22nd, 2019.
I was absent, so.
So we don't have a quorum, so we will postpone that.
And I was absent on the other one.
And so we still don't, so we will
Moving on.
postpone approval of the minutes to the next month. We have no consent calendar and no staff report, so we'll go on to plan, our public hearing, site plan for A.
Commissioner Gross and members of the Planning Commission, Site Plan Review 1803 is the consideration of an 11,619 square foot, 2-story central plant building to include a 41-foot tall thermal energy storage tank at 3832 Catalina Street in Los Alamitos. It's at the hospital in the medical center specific plan. That's kind of what the interpretation of what it'll look like is. The project would also include the demolition of a medical office building at 3791 Cattell Avenue and the construction of a utility bridge across Kaler Street. The applicant's here with us tonight, Kent Clayton. He is with the hospital, and then he's being represented somewhat by AJ Omar. And the Los Alamitos Medical Center has applied for the construction of this building. It has a water tank, as you can see there. Uh-oh. There we go. All right, this is the location up here. And then in the future, they plan on building a parking structure there and then two other buildings for the hospital to expand that as well. And you may recall on September 26, 2018, the commission confirmed the proposition that they change around the phases a little bit. And so this building is in a different area from where it was originally intended to be, which was there. And that's right, isn't it? Right. Yeah, right. And so now it's here. The currently existing medical office building, MOB1, that they're going to be tearing down is down here where this parking lot will be. Let's see, building walls and fencing cover most of the utility items to be installed inside the central plant area. The minimum setbacks are met. Other buildings on the campus are well over 10 feet from this building. And the architectural style is industrial modern with no certain descriptive label. It's a central plant. So like most utility plants built today, its construction uses modern materials, interesting planes that step in and out. Let me get to a picture of that. There we go. And decorative metal screening that takes the structure beyond what could be just a large stucco box. Provides an interesting view for the public. It is anticipated that the building will become less prominent when the other buildings are built. There is a thermal energy storage water tank, which is right here. These are two examples of the way it could be painted. You have a choice tonight of, one of those or just regular paint, whatever you'd suggest. But the tank does exist, does rise up above the wall here. Here's the wall where it is, but then the tank does go up higher, and that's on this side. On the other sides, it generally, let's see if I have another picture here, just flying through here. No, I don't. So the other angles that you've seen in your packet, for the most part, cover up the water tank. It's just really this angle, and this is the side that the future parking structure would be on. The North Bridge screen tower is right there, and it's to route utility lines from the central plant to the hospital, and this is instead of going underground. There's too many utilities that go through Kaler Street already to move them or to dig underneath them even. The screen tower cross under there is 17 feet tall. A fire truck is 14 feet. That's the clearance they want. So it is at the right height. The proposed bridge structure and the new emergency room parking lot, which would be the next, let's see, there. This is where the MOB building would be torn down and then a parking lot put there. This would be new emergency room parking. This is where the emergency room doors will be. This is where people will drive in there or drive out. There is a kiosk there for people to put in cards and stuff if they work there or pay for it, for parking there. Let's see, I've completely lost track of where I'm at. Let's see here. The ADA spaces will be in there, as you can see. The new drive aisles are proposed at 24 feet in width, and staff recommends approval of the project. Commissioners would need to determine whether the wave or the camouflage look or no paint pattern would look best, so that's something you should talk about. Keep in mind that future structures would cover some of it from Catella, but it is still showing the tank, so it kind of fits what the specific plan says, but it's still there. So we do recommend approval of it, though. So back to you.
Okay. Any questions of staff before I open it up to? I do want to just bring to the attention, I did email that there was a error on page 4, the first line page at 4 of 18. It's Kaler and Catella, not Los Alamitos Boulevard.
Right.
And that, so I just want to make sure we noted that. Okay, would they like to open it up to the audience, and would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening. I just want to reiterate
Can you
that.
state your name for us,
Sorry.
please?
This is, I'm AJ Omar with the CNA Architect representing Los Alamitos Medical Center for this project here. As mentioned, I mean, the project was and is to actually consolidate all the hospital utilities that will be supplying the current hospital and the future hospital development. So it'll be all concentrated in this one building, which is the central utility plant. And it is really, will be controlled all in one. It falls within the Los Alamitos city appearance, as well as the Los Alamitos Hospital vision as well for the future. It's all state-of-the-art work. I just want to talk a little bit about the thermal energy tank that we have shown here, which is really, I just want to make sure that it is, yes, it contains water, but the purpose of that is, if you're not aware, is like a battery for any component that you have. It is meant to store energy or cool down the water during the off hours, if you will, or the best hours that we can do, and utilize it, and then utilize that cold water to supplement the chillers to also provide the cool air and whatnot for the hospital. So that's the intent of that tank there. So it's a sustainability approach that we and the hospital, we felt really determined to put that in place, because it is going to help the sustainability and energy conservation for the campus, and it is going to provide better less footprint, if you will, of energy consumption. In general, that's our concept. It is going to be, as Tom mentioned, it is currently on all three sides. It's going to be, or two sides is going to be secured. You're not going to see it because it's pretty much the height of the building and the screen that you see on top. And however, from Catella, for now, you will see a little bit of it just above the fence, but in the future, it will be disguised by the future parking structure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, I have one. So what would you propose as far as painting it? And I mean, we mentioned about paint and doing it.
So the actual material is actually steel. It's going to be steel pre-painted, factory pre-painted. And we propose two options. One is the top option, which is the gray stripes. It's kind of more like grounded by the more grayish tones, if you see at the bottom. And then as it goes up, it lighten it up. And that is can be all done, of course, in the factory. That's our preferable approach, because it does actually blend with the building. It is kind of set back. It doesn't scream that pay attention to me. The one below is another option we proposed to the city. We have an opportunity there also to put a mural, if you will, representing the coast and the coastal approach and all that stuff. So it's just two options that we prefer. The second option will be more painted in the field, because it is going to be brought into the field in a primed condition and then painted in the field. But the first one will be all applied in the factory.
Any other questions? So on the colors for the top one, is that kind of a grayish?
Correct. Gray
Okay.
and white, yes.
Okay.
Gray and off-white.
What I consider when I'm looking at it, these two, and I don't know about anybody else, I think that if we were looking at from Catella and looking down, and we know we're going to see these, we want them to be as pleasing as possible. I think that while the blue one might be pretty and decorative, I don't think it's appropriate here. And that would be my concern. I think we would be better with the top one, because it blends in more with the buildings and it doesn't stand out.
Yeah, I agree.
think that's where I would go with that.
I would like to take it a step further, because I'm looking at it and I see a bunch of stripes, and although the colors are similar, to me, it's like, oh, look at this striped cylinder. I don't know that that's necessary. I'm looking at the colors on either side of the building that they're at. It's a gray material. I don't know what that material
It's
is.
CMU. It's burnished CMU, so cinder block.
To me, it would seem more appropriate to match that color and paint it a solid color, so that those buildings just all blend together. That's just my take on it, because the stripes to me are almost yes, it's way better than the ocean thing. If you're gonna do that, have Wyland come and do it, a whole above and below scene like the Long Beach Sports Arena, and make it really, really nice. But otherwise, that to me is still, although the colors are the same, a little distracting. So that's my take on it.
I think the bottom one's cool. That's where I know that one wasn't gonna fly here. Whatever I think is gonna be just the opposite. But no, I'm fine with the top. I'm fine with either one. But I think the top one, I understand it'll blend in more. It'll fade away. I don't think we're gonna see it that much anyways. When it's all
Right.
in the end, it's not gonna be that big of a deal. But the top one will probably be less noticeable, draw less attention to it. So I'm fine with either one.
And I'm fine whether you do it the two-tone, one color. I'm not too worried, whatever works for the city when they're working with you.
Does
I don't know
staff
about-
have a preference on that?
Madam Chair, if I could, just to give a little bit of background, and as you know, this was continued a couple of times, and I really want to acknowledge the medical center and their consultant team for working with us. This is a different, not dramatically different, but definitely different from what was originally proposed to us. It was much taller before, and I think it was much more pronounced, and we were a bit concerned, even though there will be future phases of development that will soften, if not eliminate, the direct view from Catella, we were concerned it was going to be something you would clearly see even from Catella. So we asked at that time, what can you do to augment this and do something different? And that's what brought about some different color schemes. But by lowering it in height, it really, I think, changed that whole aesthetic. It brought it in alignment with the rest of the surrounding buildings or building that they're going to be building. But I think from our standpoint, the upper one with the two-tone colors, it adds a little bit of creativity and innovation to it, but in a positive way. I think the blue color below is making it contrasting and may draw your attention to it more than we want to see that happen. But the upper one at least still adds some, it's just not a benign institutional look. I think it adds a little more character to it. So our recommendation would be to go with the upper proposal.
While we're talking about this, I also think the brick building directly in front of it to Catella, I think that's one of the coolest looking buildings in the city, to be honest with you. And I know that most people don't like it. But
Hate
I think
that building.
I think it's one of the coolest looking buildings in the city. I know it's older. I go inside of it and I can see how it needs to be
so
updated a little bit.
dark.
But I think it's one of the coolest looking buildings. But I know I'm in the minority there too.
Maybe we should paint that building to match the bottom 10. And then you could have really like tie it all in together.
It's up to me. They'd all look like that
Right.
front building. They'd all look like that, yeah.
Any other questions at the moment? No, okay. The bridge, I know that that's challenging. There's not much we can do. I did ask the staff about absolute height, and I think you said that 14 feet was on the fire truck, so I'm comfortable with that. I don't think tearing up Kaler and going through everything you would have to go through just to do that is worth doing. Doing the bridge, I don't have any issues with that. If anybody else doesn't, I don't know what you could do any different. So I'm
Maybe
fine
do
with that.
we could do like a monorail on it.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Now, that is an idea, because we have people always griping about, I have to walk. You have the nice tram, but they don't want to take the tram. They could take that monorail.
People mover.
People mover. So I don't have any issues with that as well, other than, it's unfortunate we really have to go that way, but it's no chance, there's nothing you can do. Anything else? And then
I guess I was just curious, the other three, it appears to be 3 water tanks across the street.
Correct.
Are those staying?
Those are not ours.
Oh, they're not?
Those are Golden State.
Golden State
Oh,
Water.
State water, okay.
You still like your water? You better.
Yeah.
Not really.
I'll make a motion to approve site plan review 18-03.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I like the red brick building. Okay.
I don't know if that couple is waiting for us to respond, because nobody said that we can't. I know, but I don't
okay.
think that they understood that we can't. So
Have to
maybe
wait, yeah.
we should just let them know before we go on to the next.
Just very quick, Tom, do they know that we can't respond to them? Does the couple know we can't respond to them?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. Okay, general plan B amendment.
Hang on.
The zoning code. Okay, yeah, they don't respond to you. Oh, no, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I had-
See, they're
I had a
leaving,
feeling
we
they
could
did.
have hostage. Okay. We had hostage. Okay. Can I get a staff report, please?
Okay. Hopefully I won't get lost in this one like I did in the last one.
No, that's okay, so.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
pulling the wrong
Only 'cause you
pages
said
out.
something.
Commissioner Gross and members of the Planning Commission, General Plan Amendment 1901 is the zoning code update, which we will consider, you'll consider a resolution recommending to the City Council a zoning and subdivision code update. This will also include, just your affirmation that the addendum looks good to go to them later on for the decision about the changes to the both the general plan, if you decide tonight to change those things, or it also is for the zoning code, for the CEQA on that. In 2015, the City Council adopted the general plan, and under California law, the zoning code must be consistent with the general plan. In 2018, the city began the work that we're getting near the end of here. The subdivision code is also being updated to mirror the requirements of the state Subdivision Map Act. Here are the meetings that have happened so far. As you can see, we've had quite a few meetings over this. To avoid creating non-conforming conditions, the zoning code largely carries forward existing land use regulations that we already have and development standards. But the types of revisions to the zoning code include these here. Elimination of conflicts with other zoning code provisions, creation of the town center mixed-use zone, elimination of the limited industrial zone, and then combining it with the planned light industrial zone, which is also being changed to PLI instead of PM, which was always an odd way to do it. And it would also allow commercial recreational uses with a conditional use permit back in the planned light industrial zone, so you go back to being able to decide, if you decide tonight to do this, decide whether they could go there. It also modernizes the land use tables and simplifies development standards in residential, commercial, and industrial zones. We have also adjusted parking standards a bit, adjusted sign standards for consistency with case law. The addition of live-work provisions and the overlay zone, that's where the R2 zone is in Old Town East. So that will be a live-work zone, if you approve. City staff is also able to review for minor site development permits of 2,500 square feet or less of construction. It organized the temporary use permit regulations. It also did zoning map changes, which will be addressed by you in the next meeting. We will bring that to you to decide whether the map looks right. The update process identified 3 amendments that should occur prior to the City Council approval of the zoning code. The first one that you need to decide whether you still want these changes is clarifying that the professional office designation allows retail and service commercial uses in addition to office use. That's kind of how it is now. We allow restaurants and certain services in the office area. Eliminating the limited industrial and only having the planned light industrial district. Amending the general plan dwelling units per acre to a range of 20 to 25 dwelling units per acre for multifamily residential. And that's because we've removed the gross land area needed per unit that you'd put in. And so to make it consistent with the amount of dwelling units per acre that ends up being, we you guys have talked about in the past maybe making it 20 to 25 dwelling units per acre for the R3 zone. Staff would also like the commission to discuss the matter of second driveways, which has been brought up at the last couple of meetings by the people that were here tonight. So, that's something you should discuss. And then after that discussion, staff recommends adoption of Resolution 1909 recommending that the City Council amend the general plan and approve the zoning code and subdivision code update unless additional contrary information is received during the public hearing tonight. So back to you.
Any questions of staff? Okay, I'm going to open it up for anybody in the audience who'd like to speak, but we don't have anybody at the moment. So, any questions?
The one piece that said the 20 to 25 units per acre,
Right.
is that approximately what we have now, or how does that differ from what we have? I forget.
It ends up being
I'm
that
sorry.
with we're requiring 1,750 square feet of land area per unit right now. And when you calculate that in, it ends up being about 23 units per acre.
Okay.
In that kind of ballpark.
If I could chime in, it actually ends up being 25.
Okay.
We had that conversation at a couple of workshops back.
Yeah.
And if you recall, in the R3 zone right now, it has that density, or not density, but a per square foot per unit provision, and that conflicts with the 30 unit per acre density of the zone. And we as staff brought up that it really needs to be consistent with the general plan, which is 30 units to the acre. As a commission, you provided feedback to us saying, no, we'd really like to see it 25 units per acre. And that really is what we've done, is we've drafted that. The 1750 is eliminated. It's just a cap of not to exceed 25 units per acre per the R3 zone. But I wanted to emphasize too that, and it's a little bit, hopefully maybe you got this, but I know we had to go through it a couple of times. Because of the general plan amendments, there's three now. And Tom just covered those three. Your recommendation to council really is a two-step action. The first step is the general plan amendment process has to be completed, which means if the council concurs with your recommendation, and assuming it's consistent with what we've identified tonight, they'll then instruct staff to proceed with that amendment procedure. And that would actually come back to you and then ultimately go to council. Once that's done, then council would consider the zoning code amendment. So it's really kind of it's typically not how we do this, but we're trying to sequentially make this work to ensure that at the end of the day, there's consistency between the general plan and the zoning code, which was our primary objective when we started this way back when. So hopefully that kind of clarifies that. And then really quick, if I could jump on it since I have your attention, the driveway issue, just to clarify that, what we've talked about from a staff level, we didn't give you any language today, but what we've talked about at the staff level is considering some language that would allow for an administrative review and approval if it is not eliminating parking. So if somebody is proposing a second driveway, if it is not conflicting with or taking away parking, in this instance, the resident you heard from as a red curb where he wants to establish it, that would be an administrative review conducted and ultimately director approval. But if there's a conflict with parking, it's eliminating existing parking, that the language would remain as you put it into place, I think about a year or two ago. But we're trying to find a way to where there are exceptions that make sense and possibly would allow for a property owner to utilize that space that's not going to be taking away parking. Why not allow for that administrative review to be considered and go from there?
And I would imagine there aren't that many properties in Los Alamitos that's really going to pertain to that.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are areas that, there are definitely red curbed areas, but it's going to be very rare and infrequent. However, if that exists and there's a potential for someone who wants to establish a second driveway approach, I guess our position is why not allow that to be considered, because it's not, as I understand, the primary objective of why that conditional use permit process was established was because we didn't want to see parking taken away. That's obviously very critical and precious. So in this instance, we thought, well, it seems to be a win-win if there's that particular language allowance.
Let me ask you this, can you legally park on the street in front of an approach? Like at my own house, I can park in front of the approach?
My understanding is you are not to, you can't park in front and prevent ingress and egress.
Correct.
So the answer would be no.
I was just curious. Because, okay, so I'm just thinking it's red right now. If it was an approach, maybe you could park there, you know what I mean, if that was allowed, but it's not allowed.
Right.
So you're actually adding parking if you're allowing the approach in a way. However, the fact that it's red, I don't know why it's red, but isn't that kind of arbitrary anyways? You could paint it white tomorrow and it would be a place you could park. You know what I mean? I'm not sure if I really,
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
sure if
a good question. Why is it? Is it
Well,
in
I
the
mean, but-
corner or?
The-
it gets me to the point where I'm fine with
is right
creating,
Huh?
having a process to create an approach. I could care less about the parking, whether it takes away parking or doesn't take away parking. I'd rather have you have the direction to be able to do it or not do it, regardless of parking. Because my opinion right now is, just because it's painted red, okay, so I want an approach. So hey, can you paint that red for me? And then now I can. Oh, now that it's red, now I can have it in. You know what I mean? It seems like it's where to me, for me anyway, it's like it's irrelevant. If it makes sense, it makes sense. You know what I mean? If someone can argue it makes sense. I guess right now it has to be a conditional use permit, right? So that's going to
Yes.
cost extra money for him to do it and this and that. That's the kind of way it's designed. It's probably designed that way for a good reason. Maybe it shouldn't be changed. I don't know. But then again, I also want to do things that make sense. So I don't know. For me, the parking, not parking is irrelevant in my opinion. So if you want to do something like that, I think it's great. You know what I mean? To be able to do an administrative review, but okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
What's
No,
the-
I was just wondering, why is it red? Like, is it?
He's near a fire plug and a fire hydrant, and there has to be red space in front of the
Right,
hydrant.
okay,
and
that makes sense.
Behind the hydrant. So that's red anyway. No one can park
And
there.
are there other
So
places
no one
where
can
there's
park
like a
there.
fire hydrant right next to a driveway?
Yes, yeah.
That
Okay.
can happen.
Yeah.
But again, let's say there's a driveway approach or a couple of driveway approaches, we're going to assess the distance. And if there's an area that needs to be red curb, let's say there's just one driveway approach, so a portion of it may still be red curb. And that's the case here with this particular matter. There's a driveway approach for the neighbor right next door. The hydrant kind of straddles the two properties. And their drive, as he mentioned, way back when, many years ago, they established a driveway. There's just not an approach. And per our code, you have to have a driveway approach in order to access. You can't just drive over the sidewalk and over a standard vertical curb.
Right.
But we only red curb if if it's a hydrant. It might be a site distance issue where we're trying to keep a vehicle from parking there for proper clearance, for visual clearance. Those are probably the two primary reasons. But again, a driveway being there is, you're not going to have a car parked there, so you're still going to get that site distance or that clearance for fire-related reasons if another driveway approach is put in.
I think that should be administrative. I don't think that should
Yeah.
be coming to us to make that kind of decision. If you're more than capable of making those decisions, and we're not going to have that many instances in the city.
So what do we need to do
Yeah.
do we have to actually vote on that to have it be because that's got to change, right, before we make any decision?
Correct. If you make, if you want to direct us to amend the language as appropriate to reflect that, then we'll go forward, include that in the recommendation that goes to council.
Okay.
So it's just, I guess, as simple or straightforward as that. Unless you actually want to see the language, then we'd have to bring that back to you.
So
fine
this,
with that.
this on the screen is what you'd approve, but then you'd say with the changes that we discussed tonight.
Yes. Okay.
Any other questions or comments for staff? Nope. Do I have an emotion with any changes?
I'll make a motion to approve with the change for the administrative review for the second driveway.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion passes.
Madam Chair, if I could say really quick before you move on, thank you all for, I know it's not done yet, but this is a tremendous amount of work and effort that obviously our consultant team and staff endured, but you endured a lot of that too. You had to read through all that. You had to sit through a lot of meetings, workshops, et cetera, and we very much appreciate all of your time and effort and feedback that you provided us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So item 10, discussion for new business assistance.
Oh, we still need to
Oh, I'm sorry.
talk about the other
Oh.
issues. Do they need to vote on that as well? Those 3 general plan?
No.
No, okay.
No.
Oh.
All right, okay.
Yep, that's all included
All
in
right.
the reso.
Yeah,
Okay. Just want to make sure.
The final item we have for you this evening is a result of 2 meetings ago, some conversation that occurred as a result of a prospective business owner who came in and shared her story, which was concerning to all of us with regards to a relationship with a prospective landlord and some issues with that. And so we provided a brief staff report for you for your consideration. I also wanted to mention that there's some correspondence we gave you this evening that it came from Commissioner DeBolt as some proposed thoughts for dialogue and exchange between staff and prospective businesses or I think in this instance actually property owners or property managers. I did want to mention very quickly to you that as a result of what transpired at that meeting, we corresponded with the property manager. I think her name is, well, no, that was Mrs. Rodriguez who spoke with you, but we reached out to the actual property manager for that multi-tenant building and asked for her assistance in getting the word out to her prospective tenants and provided the municipal code and the development standards and basically put her on record by doing so that here's the information, please engage with prospective tenants and know this information and let them be aware of what the development standards provide for, and also ask that she please encourage them to engage with us. I think that this is a rare and infrequent situation and circumstance that happens. This is not something we see hardly. We see the vast majority of prospective tenants engaging with us. It doesn't always happen, but I would say the majority definitely come in and they do the right thing. They do their due diligence. They understand the zoning. They understand the business license procedure and process. They, if applicable, they talk with our building staff about tenant improvements, and they understand that. And a lot of times that's not even before they make the commitment of a signed lease. I think what's happening in this circumstance and situation is a bit unique, but nevertheless, we are wanting to be as proactive as we can. But unfortunately, we really just can't be out there engaging with people until they've made some contact with us. But we are certainly trying to be reactive and responsive, and we want to correct matters as quickly as we can and this is an example of one of those. So we're here to hear from you tonight, but I want you to know that from a staff standpoint, we're quite concerned when we hear these type of stories, and because it does reflect upon the community at large, even though there's really nothing we can do until we hear about it. And we're going to continue to look for any ways that we can get the word out and be as proactive as possible, and with any prospective business that wants to establish themselves here in Los Alamitos.
Thank you. Any comments for the staff or questions?
Well, with regards to the situation, I feel similar to this as well. I feel to a certain degree that would almost eliminate it if it was put on the landlord, and it's this very simple thing that say, hey, this is the zoning, and you need to go get a permit, and it's done. At that point, it's on that tenant to go to the city, see what they can or cannot do before they sign any lease. I mean, yes, she should have done, or whoever needs to do their due diligence. I understand that. But if you're a new business owner, you've never done this before, as I'll use that as an example, it was a hair salon, right? It's probably cutting hair and said, hey, I'm going to open my own business. Knows how to cut hair, probably really well, but has no idea about a business. I don't know that that person should actually be penalized for that when the landlord knows well and good what their property can and cannot do. So it just seems to me, to make things simple and to not have this happen, that exactly that the owner of the property just gives them, hey, before you sign this, you need to go to city, make sure that this all will work, and then it's done. That doesn't happen anymore.
Absolutely. We see it the same way.
It's
We
that
see
simple.
this as the landlord property manager issue. And again, most landlords, property managers, they know the process procedures, they know the development
Yeah.
standards, the zoning in general. And if they don't, they're quick to say, go see the city. Like I said, Tom especially is the one that's fielding these several a day, where people are calling and inquiring, asking questions. And so I think it's working for most. And not to say a whole lot, but in this particular situation, on that particular property, there's a history.
Right.
And we've now put them on notice. And I guess our perspective is, going forward, if we hear about this again, we now have correspondence that we could share with that individual that may not have all their information, that might help them. But we want to be proactive, but we're outside of notifying every property owner in the community, and I don't know what else we could do at this point in time other than to continue to do what we have been doing. And when we see a situation like this, that we're quick to respond to it and address it, and hope that it changes and has a different outcome going forward.
Are you also notifying the property owner or just the property manager? Because since I've been on the commission, this is the second or third one that's come up at this property. So I don't feel like the property manager's, I don't know if honest is the right word, but she's misleading people coming in.
In this instance, we wanted to do both, and county records identify that individual as the point of contact. So we went as far as finding out county
Okay.
records who identified, and that correspondence was sent to that individual. It just happened to be the same person. So I think there might be more than a property manager situation there.
Yeah, she's a signatory for the owner.
Do we know if that woman got her money back?
We don't. We never.
It's really been bothering me since we had that meeting.
Well, it's interesting because we tend to, when you have a bad situation, that becomes a very focal point, you know what I mean? So you really pay attention to that. So sometimes things don't happen as much as you think, but because one event is so traumatic or seems so traumatic, then we focus on
Yeah.
that. But I was just curious to ask the city attorney, just in your general thoughts, in a normal situation where someone signs a lease for a certain business, finds out they can't actually operate that business, tries to recoup their money, they can't. Obviously, they can litigate now to try to get that money back. What are the odds of them getting that money back? What are the odds of a tenant getting their money back in a situation like that?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to provide an assessment without knowing more facts. I think the tenant's probably going to try to argue that they were somehow misled or that there was fraud involved or some sort of misrepresentation, and those facts would benefit the claim made by the business owner. Conversely, the property owner will simply say, hey, they may say they told the person and they misunderstood. They may say, hey, that due diligence is on you and I made no representations. It's your duty to find out what is permitted use. So it's really hard from our perspective because we hear about this on the tail end and the city's not really in a position to get involved in a sort of a civil landlord-tenant dispute. But
I'm guessing.
certainly understand why people are upset because it's just a terrible story to hear
Yeah.
something like that.
I'm guessing one is the amounts aren't big enough to litigate because the litigation costs are more than what they have into it. But then also is that I'm guessing that the tenants probably don't win that often in this situation. I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm guessing the landlord keeps their money a lot of times. But I don't know.
It's hard to say,
okay.
again, if there is some sort of fraud or misrepresentation, there'd be a
Sure.
stronger claim. But it's a bad spot to be
hard to
once you
prove.
sign
It's gonna
without
be
a
hard to prove.
contingency on your lease.
It makes it a challenge from our standpoint because we do not govern the businesses in that respect on who they sign leases with. And you hope that they do diligence by telling them, go to talk to the city first. on saying that. We have a letter here from our Commissioner, Art DeBolt, that I want to make sure that we do put it in the record for him. I don't know how we could even enforce something like this or, sending out letters. Would you like me to read the letter for the thing, or do we need to?
If you'd like, you can read it in, or you've simply noted that it's there, and we'll
Yeah,
make sure to get
you
it
just-
into the
okay.
record of the proceeding.
We note
for you.
it. So it's a way of at least trying to have the city remind and send out to these people that, due diligence for these people coming to you to send them to us. And I think it's fair. I think you did a good job. So, anybody else have any questions?
No.
And should I open this for any communication or no? Okay. And do we need to do anything else other than the discussion?
You want a broker's opinion? I mean, don't feel guilty. The responsibility is on the tenant to check. And you guys should, this thing of having a guilt trip.
You want
Sir, if you could
yeah.
come to the podium, please, so that we
Do you
can
want
get
me
your
to open
comments on the record.
Yeah.
Let me officially go ahead and open it for public comment.
Because I just hear you, feeling bad about this. I've been in this business over 25 years. My name is Jim St. Omroy. I'm with Dom Commercial Real Estate. I specialize in industrial sales, leasing, investments, and property. The AIR lease, which is probably the standard lease for Orange County, LA County, not that you have to use that, and I'm sure the attorney's familiar with the AIR lease. Very clear in there that it's the tenant's responsibility to investigate if their use is permitted in that zoning. Now again, it's a lawsuit if the landlord tells them you don't have to do it and it is and whatever, but the city should not feel any guilt at all. It is absolutely the tenant's responsibility to find out if their use is permitted in that zone, and they should not be signing a lease until they find that out. That's part of the due diligence of, as the word was used, it's due diligence is part of a lease, due diligence is part of the sale. It's not the city's responsibility to hold their hand to find out that that use is permitted.
I don't think any of us, though, think it's the city's responsibility. We think it's the person who's doing the leasing. She knows you can't have a hair salon in this building. So, I mean, if it were me, it should stop right there.
Yeah.
And you say, I'm sorry, that's not a permitted use.
Yeah,
You'll have to find
then you
another
get into
space.
the legal part, but the simple, the thing is, it's the tenant's
Right. Yeah, I
responsibility to
understand
find
that.
out if they can do their business, or somebody buying a business. Yeah, the landlord should know, but again, I'm not an attorney. That would be if the landlord doesn't say anything. If the landlord encourages them, yeah, you should, no problem, no need to go to the city, that's another issue. But the responsibility as far as a tenant or a buyer's due diligence is to investigate if that use is permitted in that zoning. It's pretty clear cut. You guys don't have any responsibility to handhold a tenant. And yeah, the landlord should know that stuff. Property manager should know that stuff. But if they don't say anything, I don't think they're responsible. It's the tenant or the buyer that needs to make that a part of their due diligence. I'm just trying to make you guys not feel so bad. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we're all clear that that is the case. I
Yeah.
think we're just trying to look at a scenario that happened and say, how do we eliminate this from happening? It's not.
You can't.
Well, you
Well,
can't.
and-
Well, when it's happened multiple times
I
at
think
one
that's not the issue.
property.
I think
All right.
Yeah,
So
If it was a
that's-
one-off,
Yeah.
we
They don't-
agree with-
we haven't
agree
seen
with
it very
all that.
often,
Is when
yeah.
you have a same property having a habitual problem, I think then I think it comes.
have a bigger conversation.
Yeah, I think it comes, also now all of a sudden the city does have somewhat of an obligation when they
Right.
see a habitual problem at a
Right.
habitual site.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't
this-
think it's something that we see hardly.
Yeah,
And
but
since
again,
we
the
don't know
ethical
all
do-
the particulars on one, we should keep it real generic for what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as, other than wanting to just go ahead, acknowledge Commissioner DeBolt's
Yeah.
letter here, and that's all. I don't have anything else. I'll close
Yeah.
the public comment. Anything else from anybody?
No, I was saying, on that same
Okay.
note, though, I think that, I agree, I don't think we should do anything or have any policy or have anything like that. I just think that when a certain unique situation comes up, then you have a certain unique situation that you can deal with, but maybe no formal policy, no formal thing that we're doing. But we do have the ethical obligation, I think, to reach out and try to solve an issue.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the key, is the ethical portion of it from that person's standpoint. I mean, as a property owner, you know,
If it's
it's
a
the right
repetitive.
thing to do, you know what I mean? I mean, even to refund a person, like, let's say the person does make a mistake. I mean, it's still the right thing to do, to refund the person's money. I mean,
But
it's like, you know.
yeah, that's still not, we don't know everything on that.
No, of
so,
course, of
yeah.
course. I'm just saying, it's,
Okay, so enough on that one. So let's go to items from the Development Services Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commission members. A few things I just want to mention real quick. Again, I want to go back to this. I really would encourage you to very much consider this opportunity. Again, this is not being stressed or emphasized by any organization per se that's for profit. This is a grassroots effort by your fellow peers and former commissioners and a few key staff like Barry. I don't think Barry really even mentioned, Barry is the Community Development Director for the city of Costa Mesa. He served for the city of Irvine a number of years prior to that. Unfortunately, he's on the verge of retiring here soon, which is a big loss for some of us that were interacting, rub elbows with him quite often. And I get the privilege of serving with him and Steve Mendoza on the Planning Director Association of Orange County Board. And he's volunteering his time and effort to help assist some very well respected and seasoned planning commissioners in doing this type of educational outreach. So I realize that time is precious for all of us, but if you can find an opportunity to either attend this upcoming event or to reach out to Adrian and email her saying, I can't go to this July one, but I'm interested, please keep me in the loop. I think this would be a great resource for you going forward. And I think it's, bless you, I think it's just the beginning of an opportunity for information exchange, idea exchanges to occur amongst you fellow commissioners. And as Barry mentioned, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. There's a lot of your fellow peers are dealing with a lot of, a multitude of different issues depending on their jurisdiction, and we can all learn. I know as directors, we talk a lot about what's happening and what we can learn from one another, and I would encourage you at the commission level to do the same. Second, just with some highlighting of some projects, status of projects, and in case you haven't seen or not aware of it, the Olson condo project is well underway. They're actually framing or setting up forms for their first set of units to be established. We'll probably see the model trailer and parking lot coming in soon for that project. So you'll start seeing some lumber going vertical here probably the next 60 to 90 days, and they're off to a good start with that project. At least that's what we're hearing. Today we received a first portion of the plans for the Hutton project right next door, the Los Alamitos Luxury Apartments project. I think it was the grading and utility plans for that, and
it was 250 pages for just that.
literally a tree trunk, a couple of tree trunks came in for that very, very large project, and they hope to be under construction by the first of the year. They're in right now, obviously starting the building permit review plan check process, and we should see some remediation activity, I think probably in the next 30 to 45 days startup for that site. So a lot of activity occurring in that neighborhood here, and will be going on for the next 18 months to 24 months. The hotel, if you haven't seen, they're continuing to make progress. I think all the windows are in now, and they're working like mad inside with all of the utility, the plumbing and the electrical, and it's starting to take form. We're excited to see that. They appear to be on schedule with a spring opening, so hopefully that will continue to be the case.
Do we know what the name of it's going to be? Is that decided?
It's a
Fairfield Marriott.
It's a
still
Fairfield
Fairfield?
Marriott.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what it was always billed as. I just didn't know if that was.
Yep, that's the flag. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And they have a nice finish. It's going to be a nice looking hotel. I think you're going to be very happy with it when they're done.
Yep.
And then if you haven't seen the building recently, the 5151 Catella site, the Starbucks site is really coming along. I think aesthetically, it's looking fabulous. Really, really nice. They're going above and beyond, in my opinion. They established fairly mature landscaping being put in, and the shell is close to being done. And once the shell is completed, Starbucks will then start on their tenant improvement I think they were talking early fall opening, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they do it sometime this summer. They're really flying.
The TI work in those units go really fast. The contractors that do that work, they're just machines. They come in and
over and over again.
they know what they're doing. So, late summer, early fall is when we expect that to be
Still no
open.
second tenant?
Still no second tenant, no. No, the one tenant I wanted is still not coming in.
Nope.
So
That's
we've reached out to the owner, and we're certainly here to do whatever we can to assist them. But I know that he's very particular, and that's a good thing, I think, for all of us. They'll eventually get a solid tenant in there, and we're here to help however we can in that regard. And then finally, I wanted to mention an item to you, maybe as an indirect, but for you to consider. We just approved our budget. City Council approved the budget last meeting, and we're going through a fiscal sustainability process for the city. So it's what was a 10-year, now going up to a 20-year fiscal planning for the city, and there's a lot of information available for us. I don't want to take your time tonight and belabor that, but would encourage you to check out that information on the finance page on our website. There's a PowerPoint. We just did a presentation to the chamber at their last breakfast business meeting, and there'll be additional, this is just the beginning of several meetings that we will be doing at various times and at various locations throughout the community. And really right now we're on a fact-finding mission. We know that fiscally we're not going to be able to sustain even 10 years. And so we're going through an exercise of trying to understand what's next, and we're looking at all options as we go through that as the executive team, and would encourage you to look at that information, provide that feedback. We're looking for good, solid, constructive feedback, and we want to hear from as many people as possible as we try and figure out what's next, knowing that in a number of years we're financially going to be in a difficult situation as a municipality. And we obviously want to maintain the high level of service that our residents are accustomed to. As you know, we've made a lot of cuts over the last 10 years, and we want to make sure going forward that we can maintain that level of service, but we really need that input to understand what's priority, what's important, and how do we venture forth. So wanted to leave that with you, and again, the finance department's webpage has a lot of information there for you, and if you need any other information, please let me know. I'd be happy to get whatever you need, or sit down with you one-on-one and talk with you further about this. So, and with that concludes my comments tonight.
Thank you. Any commissioner reports? Well, I will. First off, Saturday was a Serve La Salle, which hats off to Parks and Rec. That was a whole lot of fun. I like it. This is the second year they've done it. I volunteered both years, and personally, I love seeing the community come together to help everybody. So that was really nice. I've been by the Starbucks. I tell everybody at work, thank me for making sure that went through, because they are always walking in with Starbucks. I do have a question on the tattoo parlors sign on their building. Since it's not appropriate, are they going to get a new sign up, or?
I've asked code enforcement to talk to them, and I don't know where he's at in the process with that.
And then Sunday was really interesting. Wahoo, okay, I'm calling
Wahoos.
Yeah.
Wahoos. I could see it, can get it. They had a really unique event. I'm going to let you talk about it if you don't mind real quick.
Yeah, well, so they had actually the official grand opening, which was the ribbon cutting and all of that. But more than that, they actually had a fundraising event for a gentleman by the name of Ed Santos, who was heavily involved in marketing for Wahoos for a very long time. Recently passed away, and had a fundraiser for his family. And so it was well attended. It was a very fun event. They had an 80s band playing 80s music. Ed Santos went by Rock the Mullet. He had a mullet for a very, very long time, and just a great guy. Know him from the snowboarding scene as well. But anyway, the event was great, well attended. They had an ice cream truck there from this guy that it's like a food truck, but it's ice cream, and he does all the concerts that he's met just about every band through the 80s, and they've all signed inside. It was really fun to see. They had bouncers for the kids. I had a raffle as well, and then I believe they also just recently finally got their alcohol license, a full liquor license. So that went well. So yeah, fun event. It certainly looked good from the street. I think it caught a lot of people's attention driving by. They had a stage set up and everything else. But yeah, thank you. It was a fun event.
And the nice part about that was, I mean, you just hit it. The people saw it driving by, so now it made them really want to go. So it's showcases our city, what's here, and I'd like to hope that we can get more businesses to do things like this.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun, and I was over there, I was watching people and their comments, very positive. It was nice to see. So maybe we can get other businesses again to do that. I know sometime back, one of the ones that I enjoyed a lot was Roland Sands Designs with his motorcycles, and he had a band, and they had all kinds of things going, and he had motorcycles out, and people were asking them, all about the questions on what kind of motorcycles this, or why, they do specially designed ones, and their bikes run 50,000 up, so yeah, it's fun, and I hope other businesses will start tying in. That brings business to our community, and it brings awareness, so I thought it was amazing. And then I also heard there was a party for someone's birthday, so happy belated birthday that you forgot to invite us to.
Thank you.
But other than that, yeah, we'll put the pictures up on the
Yeah,
internet.
there's some photos, that's for sure. Incriminating
So,
photos.
other than that, no, thank you guys for everything, and I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Yeah, retell those photos.